In the next 30 minutes, we'll take you through all the news stories from across the globe. East Timor and Australia signed a treaty at the United Nations to resolve a long-running dispute over their maritime border and struck a deal on how to share revenue from the giant offshore Greater Sunrise gas field. Under the agreement, East Timor will receive a bigger share of the revenue than Australia, around 70% of the revenue if the gas is piped to the tiny country, or 80% if the gas is piped to Australia for processing. The agreement establishes a maritime boundary in the Timor Sea for the first time. Top White House economic advisor Gary Cohn, a Wall Street banker, is resigning. Cohn's resignation comes after U.S. President Donald Trump said he would impose hefty tariffs on steel and aluminium imports in a move that would hit close allies Canada and Mexico. President Trump's decision to impose tariffs prompted speculation that Gary Cohn might leave the White House because of his opposition to the policy. There is strong support for Egypt President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi before the presidential election between 26th and 28th of March. All serious opposition to President Sisi have pulled out of the campaign, saying the government is using underhand tactics to ensure Sisi gets a second term. President Sisi led the military overthrow of Egypt's former Islamist president Mohamed Morsi in 2013 and was elected in a landslide vote in 2014. Sisi announced he was running for a second term this January. Brazil's top appeals court denied former President Luiz Silvia's request to not be sent to prison before he files all appeal options available to him. This means that Mr. Silvia might start his 12-year jail term conviction on corruption charges soon. Lula Silva faces 6 other corruption charges related to the trials. White Helmet Civil Defense Group continue rescuing wounded people, including children in rebel-held areas of eastern Ghouta after more military strikes in the area. 19 people, including 4 children, were killed on Tuesday. The United Nations believes 400,000 people are trapped inside the enclave where food and medical supplies were already running out before the assault began with intense airstrikes 2 weeks ago. A temporary symbolic cemetery was set up at a local park, Mexico City, by United Nations women and human rights groups as part of a campaign against violence towards women. Venus signs were used as tombs to represent a growing number of women murdered. There has been a dramatic rise in the number of women murdered under the current administration in Mexico. A note written by Albert Einstein to an Italian woman scientist who had declined to meet him sold at auction on Tuesday, along with a batch of other letters left by the renowned physicist. The auction house said Einstein was 42 when he wrote the letter to a chemistry student in her 20s. Albert Einstein's violin will also go under the hammer suit. The violin could sell for between $100,000 and $150,000. The violin was made in 1933 by Oscar Steger and given to Einstein after his arrival in the United States as a President Scholar at Princeton University. Kurdish-allied Syrian Arab militia will assign 1,700 fighters from fronts against Islamic State to the Afrin region to help fend off a Turkish offensive. The militias have been fighting in eastern Syria as part of the US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces. The Pentagon said on Monday that Turkey's offensive against US-backed forces in Syria had affected the fight against Islamic State. Turkey launched its air and ground assault on Afrin in January to drive out the YPG, which it sees as terrorists with links to a Kurdish insurgency at home. Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena declared a nationwide state of emergency for 7 days. The emergency was declared after clashes erupted between majority Buddhists and members of the Muslim minority became violent. There has been a rise in tension between the two groups since last year. It was not clear why the initial altercation started between the two groups this time. Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton, visited a primary school in Oxford to support a charity project that focuses on the emotional health of students and their families. She discussed issues such as bullying with a group of students and also met with teachers and families supported by charity. Prince William and his younger brother Prince Harry have made campaigning about mental health one of their priorities. Ten members of the National Liberation Army were killed in a bombing operation. This was the largest strike against the rebel group since the end of peace talks with the Colombian government. Colombia's government and the began peace talks in Ecuador in February last year in an effort to put an end to a series of internal conflicts that have lasted for over half a century. Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos suspended talks with the UN in January after attacks left 8 police officers dead, 40 others injured, and damage to the nation's petroleum infrastructure. Dozens of Argentine lawmakers of all political stripes presented a bill to legalize abortion. Around 70 members of the lower house of Congress unveiled a bill that would allow women in Argentina to interrupt pregnancy during the first 14 weeks. Argentina currently permits abortion in specific cases, including rape and risk to mother's life. Forbes magazine released its annual list of the world's richest persons. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos tops the list. Bezos is estimated to be worth $112 billion according to Forbes. Bill Gates is on the number 2 spot. Bill Gates was the richest person in the world 18 out of past 24 years. India's Reliance Industries chairman Mukesh Ambani ranks number 19, valued at $40 billion. West Virginia officials agreed to a deal ending a teacher strike by raising pay for all state workers by 5%. Teachers have been protesting for more than a week, asking for higher salaries. More than 200,000 students were out of the classroom for 9 school days because of the teacher strike. West Virginia is ranked 46th among the 50 U.S. states for average teacher pay last. Boxer Nicola Adams has turned into a Barbie doll ahead of International Women's Day. Manufacturers Mattel say they chose Nicola because of her outstanding contributions to boxing. Nicola Adams has won 2 Olympic gold medals. She is the first UK star to join Barbie's Shero range. Sochi marked a 100-day point in its countdown to the Russia World Cup with a dolphin show. Sochi will host 6 games in its new Fish Stadium as part of the Russia World Cup, which will take place between June 14 and July. And time to move on to some national stories. Bhubaneswar city transgender community staged a protest against municipal authorities. The authorities want the community to move from the government land they have occupied. The residents, however, protested and want the government to provide them with an alternative accommodation before they are forced to move. Varanasi is gearing up to host Prime Minister Narendra Modi and French President Emmanuel Macron next week. President Macron will land in India on March 9 for a 4-day visit. Prime Minister Modi and President Macron are expected to take boat rides in Varanasi. Commander of Sri Lankan Army, Lieutenant General NUMMW Senanayake, laid floral wreath at a World War I war memorial in India Gate. Lieutenant General Senanaike is on a 2-day trip to India. Lieutenant General Senanaike is scheduled to hold talks with several officials during his visit. And let's move over to some entertainment stories now. A man named Terry Bryant, suspected of stealing Oscar 2018 Best Actress winner Frances McDormand's trophy, has been arrested by the police. Terry reportedly stole the trophy at Governor's Ball party held after the Oscars. He had boasted about the trophy in a video posted on Facebook in which he said, "This is mine. We got it tonight." Veteran actress Shammi, born as Nargis Rabadi, passed away at the age of 89 due to prolonged illness. She appeared in over 100 films, including Khuda Gawah, Hum, Arth and The Burning Train. Shammi also worked in many television shows like Dekh Bhai Dekh, Shriman Shrimati and Kabhi Ye Kabhi Wo. The 50th anniversary of English rock band The Beatles' visit to Maharishi Mahesh Yogi Ashram was celebrated in Uttarakhand's Rishikesh. The band had visited the ashram to practice transcendental meditation in 1968 and had written nearly 50 songs there. The ashram, now commonly known as the Beatles Ashram, has been turned into an eco-friendly tourism destination by the state authorities. Actor-politician Shatrughan Sinha has said if he had to portray a distinguished Indian in a film, it would be PM Narendra Modi. Shatrughan added, "He is indeed our most dynamic action hero. I always called him that. Who wouldn't want to play him in a film? I'm very excited at the prospect. Look forward to doing full justice to it."